Hello, my name is Grayson Cannon. I'm an attorney with Phillips & Ingram. Today, in the second installment of our video blog series on the parenting plan, we're going to talk about some issues regarding supervision of visitation and special conditions for visitation, as well as decision making from day to day and on a more important, more permanent basis. The first thing I want to talk to you about is supervised visitation. A lot of my clients come in with the idea that they can get supervision of visitation really easily and that the court is going to provide that supervision. You should know that both of those are very wrong. It's very difficult to get supervised visitation. The court only uses it when there's a serious problem with the visiting parent, such as alcohol or drug addiction, a past history of abuse of the child. There pretty much has to be some direct evidence that they're going to cause harm to the child if that visit isn't supervised. Otherwise, the court may simply decide to impose some conditions, such as no drinking or no drug use while the child is with them, rather than actual supervision of the visit. The other thing to know about is that supervision isn't provided by the court. So if you as a parent are planning to seek supervised visitation, you're going to have to provide the court with a plan for supervision, and that means a person to supervise it and a scenario of how long the visits would be and how that's going to be handled. There are some agencies that provide supervision for a fee, but they typically run about $30 to $50 per visit, and that can be prohibitively expensive for some parents. So don't just assume that you're going to get supervised visitation because the other parent has some issues. Next, we'll talk about transportation. You've got to consider where the parents live in relation to the child and the child's activities. The ideal plan is for the parents to pick up and drop off the children at each other's houses. Sometimes that doesn't work because there's been a history of arguments. In that case, sometimes you'll see the court ordering that the exchange for visitation take place, for example, in the police department parking lot or in the parking lot of a shopping mall or some other public place to avoid those problems. You might also consider that it might be easier for the parent who's starting the visit to pick the kids up from something like school or daycare or an after-school activity. Any of those things might work. In considering these special considerations, a lot of my clients want to put a provision in the parenting plan that you can't have overnight guests of the opposite sex while the kids are with you. If the parents agree to that sort of provision, typically the court's going to honor it. Sometimes, though, it may be hard to get the court to impose that unless there's direct evidence that something like that is already happening. With regard to decision making, as a general rule, from day to day, the parent that has the children with them is going to make decisions about immediate things like what the kids eat, what they wear to school, things like that. On a broader basis, there are several categories of decisions that parents often and probably should try to make jointly. Education, religious upbringing, non-emergency medical care, and extracurricular activities. And those are things that sometimes the parents go to war over. If you can't agree with your ex about those activities for the kids, sometimes the court may have to impose conditions. But as a general rule, the court would like for you to try and make those decisions jointly as a starting point. Thanks for joining us today. Next week, Jay Ingram is going to talk to you all about parenting plan issues involving the calculation of child support, providing health insurance, and the tax deduction, among other items.